Got the goodies from Korea. Y'all have to forgive the rain. I was told there's not a ton of instructions that come with this. I'm going to lay it out and we'll go from there. Alright, I believe I have this largely unpacked. Yeah, there weren't any instructions with this, but we're going to kind of figure it out as we go along. So, you start off with your heat shield, which I only really was able to find pictures of this. I haven't found any videos of anyone doing this install. This is a KDM brand, so I don't know how to pronounce it, if it's Torcon or Tocon or Toco. I'm not sure if that R is actually pronounced, but they are a little bit difficult to get in the US. My first order was through KDM Racer, but he actually had to cancel because his suppliers couldn't get a hold of him. I ended up going through Andy Mock. That's ANDYMOK, and he was able to get me the setup with the turbo inlet. So I believe this is going to, so this is obviously going to be situated with the battery behind it, engine off to the left. Your pipe is going to come in something like this, right? So gives you an idea of roughly how this is going to be assembled. Toss your filter in there. So I guess I'll show you that as well, because you probably can't find much on this either. But that's the filter they're using. It's their own in-house brand. And then we've got some hardware for the heat shield bolts and probably a bracket to help bolt it in place, which, yeah, I didn't see any. There's no like threaded holes in this. It's this is aluminum, like a sheet steel or sheet aluminum. You've got, I'm assuming that's to the diverter, the recirculation hose. And then you've got a turbo inlet clamp, and then, yeah, your inlet clamp, adapter, inlet, some more intake parts, yeah, and the actual part that bolts into the turbo. I'm hoping in disassembling this I can largely figure out what's happening as far as what goes where, but let's start by doing that. Alright, so you got two clips right here. You can pop them with a flathead and pull them out. You've got 1, 2, 3 10mm bolts. This is my parts tray so far. Got my 2 clips, my 3 bolts. Now, once you've pulled those, you've got this guy right here, which I've already loosened. You've got this going to your recirc and your PCV right here, and then finally where it actually connects to your turbo. And there's a whole air box off, to anyone curious. There's your inlet where it sits in the grill. Wasn't too tight. You gotta finagle the diverter valve a little to get it off this guy. I'm gonna kind of let it cool off a bit because I just got home from work, so she's still kind of piping. Little life hack: you can get these with Phillips, but they're also 10 mil, just like the bolts we just pulled out. So you can also hit them with that if your stuff back here is still blazing hot like mine is. It's also looking at this guy. So I think he's doing something like this. So, like I said, adapter if you want to run the stock inlet, which I probably will until I tune. It doesn't make much sense to change this out. It's just going to make it not make the stoo-doo-doo noises, and I want the stoo-doo-doo noises. But, so here's the situation. This guy's going to go in like this. You've got this guy right here, which is a bracket. It's got like a bolt hole in there to support it. So that's nothing. This is the recirc hose, I believe. Back here you've got these two guys. Both of them are plumbed. So if we go look at the stock one that's in there, this guy's coming up on the front. So that's fine. Here we've got this coming from the PCV, and maybe that going to the turbo inlet, but there's not a second hose back here that I can tell. So I'm hoping that once I've got this pulled off, I can figure it out. If that's supposed to be moved over, I mean, I don't really intend to change out the stock inlet currently, so I might need to put a plug on that. We'll see. Alright, they did give me some caps, so I'm assuming I'm not supposed to use all of those. I assume there's a way to get around that. I did want to point out, so this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, this is a really nice machined part for this bracket. This company, Torcon, like, we don't really hear about these guys in the US, but they really seem to make some high quality stuff. So I don't really know how to use it. I might have to figure that one out because there's not much in the way of instructions, but you know, I'm assuming if I had them, they'd be in Korean anyways, but hopefully the finished product will be nice. I have a lot of faith that this is going to come out in a manner that looks nice. I've seen some pictures of these installed on Velosters, and they look pretty sick. I will say, so I did pull this guy off and this guy. This was a little bit harder. Definitely pull this out of the turbo before you try to finagle that. Thank you to the Hyundai technician that, for whatever reason, crunched the front of my fucking intake onto my turbo. Real nice of you guys. 5/16 gets that guy. Alright, I'm not entirely sure where this bracket goes. I'm not sure if it's piggybacking off of one of those or what the situation is, and I think I'm at a point now, because obviously this isn't necessarily in the right place either, where I really need to get that box in so I can start to see where things are going. Alright, this guy sits right there on there, like that. You can see you've got your recessed nuts. So, set them right there. I went ahead and installed this. It's a pain in the ass, but better to do it now before that air box is in the way. I'm thinking they want us to pull these and reuse these isolators. Just litmus testing myself, like I end up running out of bolt, or I end up having too much bolt, so I'm going to assume that's what's happening here. Upon further investigation, they give us 4 bolts in the Torcon system, so I'm assuming we just use theirs. They look like they're the same size. Looks like that, and you can see it slants down. That matches the contour on the bottom of the air box. It's actually kind of different on either side, so you want to make sure you don't have it reversed. I feel like you'd notice because it'd be kicked up, and obviously the air box isn't shaped that way. Okay, you've got 2 bolts holding this guy in. This is a 10 mil. Make sure you yank that out as well. Alright, there's a trick to this. Make sure you leave this bracket loose before you go and tighten these guys in. It'll make it a lot easier to line that up. You've got like a little bracket with this little wire running underneath it. Make sure this goes on top. You can see how that kind of interacts in there. Now, I did notice this right here. You've got this old bolt hole where that used to have that self-tapping plastic screw. This guy's bent up. I have no idea if that's intentional. So I'm going to assume it probably isn't, but before I go and put a bolt in that, I want to make sure that the bracket that we had earlier for the intake doesn't have something to do with that. So we're kind of roughed in right here. You can see this lines up. This guy is where that bracket is. And like I said, I just don't know which bolt it's supposed to index off the side of the engine there. And I don't want to go and willy-nilly yank stuff off without knowing where it's supposed to go. I mean, this is what I think's happening. I think that bolt on the side is where that goes, and I think this indexes off it like that, and then this is self-tapped to take it. Hopefully I'm right. Not fun to get to. I used a 12 mil like this. You can see the bracket that holds up. That's what we're looking at. Let's check it. Well, it falls in there. Alright, that's on there. I went ahead, put their included washer on one of those aggressive threaded plastic bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and bolt this guy down. I also went ahead and threw that guy back in there just so that I don't have to keep up with him. Time to chuck the intake in there and see if it works. I would say that that is exactly the bolt that we need. So let me pull that guy out. I'm going to fit him up there, and hopefully we can catch that guy and get these pipes put on. Rookie mistake. Don't bolt it down before you put that on, then bolt it down. Alright, that's on. That's on. I'll cap that in a second. That last clamp connecting this to the turbo inlet is the last thing I need to tighten up. But that's how we're looking so far, fellas. And the final test, I've heard these can sit high and sometimes cause issues when you go to shut the hood. Make sure that goes in there. Oh, got a little better. Well, there it is. And here's the box full of stuff destined to go in the junk drawer and probably forgotten about. That's inlet stuff. To anyone keeping track. 2 push pins, 3 bolts, the recirc valve, 2 zip ties I didn't use, that goes in there.